Welcome back to Passionately Catholic. A Q&A question for us to wrestle with today. Why as Catholics, why do we have to go to Mass every single Sunday? Okay, why would the church require that of us? Why can't I just, go whenever I want? And, I've definitely talked to a lot of guys who, for example, that might really enjoy hunting or fishing, outdoors kind of guys, and they'll say, you know what? I've been even closer to God in a tree stand on a Sunday morning, waiting for deer, enjoying nature, being outside, feeling the breeze, listening to the birds, than I do at church. So why would I be required to go to church every Sunday? Now, I think that there are actually many ways to answer this question. I think there are many great things to address. First of all, let me just answer that piece. Being in a tree stand or out fishing on a Sunday morning, is that a great way to encounter God? Absolutely. Like, we can encounter God everywhere and in all things, even in times of great persecution and trials and sufferings, not just really peaceful, quiet times by a lake or out in the woods or something like that. We can encounter God everywhere. God is everywhere for us to encounter, absolutely, to be sure. However, there's other things to take into consideration here as well. For one, for example, and I think that this may be the most profound reason why we should go to Mass, not only on Sunday, but if we could, as often as we're able to, but daily Mass even, is Jesus' special presence in the Blessed Sacrament, in the Eucharist, that the Eucharist is Jesus' body and blood and soul and divinity, and that He is offering Himself to us. Like He says in John chapter 6, that we may be made one in Him, just as He is one with the Father, that we may be one in Him. And therefore, because we are connected to Jesus Christ in the Blessed Sacrament, we get connected to the Father. But not just connected to the Father, we also get connected to each other. Because Jesus, when we're bonded with Jesus Christ and we're receiving communion with everybody else at Mass, then we get bonded to everybody else at Mass who's receiving communion. But not just everybody else at that Mass, because God is not bound by space. So everybody else is receiving Mass throughout the day as well. Catholics all over the world, we're also being bonded to them all over the world. All Catholics receiving communion on a given day, a given Sunday, for example, we're all being bonded together in Jesus Christ. But God's not only not bound by space, He's also not bound by time. And therefore, we're not only being bonded to all Catholics receiving communion all around the world on that day, we're also being bonded to all Catholics of all past, of all time, who have ever received Jesus in the Eucharist before. And not just them, but also all those who will receive communion, the Blessed Sacrament, Jesus in the Eucharist, for all time in the future. Okay, this is why the Mass, the Eucharist, is a prefiguring of heaven, because there's this sharing, this bonding in Jesus Christ, God being the glue, bonding us together in love, like we'll be experiencing in heaven. So, yes, Jesus is everywhere. You can experience Jesus, we're driving in your car, in a hospital bed as you're dying, in a tree stand, fishing by a lake, river, pond, whatever. Like, absolutely. Okay, but not ever in the same way as we can receive Him in the Eucharist, in the Blessed Sacrament. That is just, there's nothing else that compares to that. Here's another thing to consider in terms of going to Mass, is that my spirituality, my relationship with God, ought not to just be a me and God type thing. Okay? Sometimes Christians get this, overemphasize this piece and think that it's all about just having a personal relationship with Jesus. But we must also consider that it's way beyond that, that the God of the Bible never intends just a one-on-one relationship. It always goes bigger. It becomes more fruitful. It flows out. It involves more people. Okay, in the Old Testament, God rallied His people around Him, all of Israel, all of the ancient Jewish people, He rallied them around. He said, I'll be your God and you will be my people. Okay, it's not just a me and Abraham thing, or a me and David thing, or me and Solomon thing. Okay, it's a me and Noah, whatever, me and Adam. It's God is building out this family, and it's all of us. God doesn't just will to save us as individual persons. He wills to save us as an entire community, and that we are engaged in that process of growing in virtue, growing in holiness, sharing in truth, sharing in Jesus Christ. All all of that together. That's part of the divine history of salvation that God has put in play. So it's not just about me sitting down and praying with God every day and having time with God every day. It's also vital for the family to come together, to pray together, and to be together. It's just like a family, mom, dad, kids. It's important to come together and share a meal together, have dinner together as many times as possible during the week. The same thing is true of our Catholic family, that we come around the altar and the table, it is both, and share in both the meal and the sacrifice of the Eucharist, and share in Jesus Christ in that way. But there's even more than that too. At the Mass, we have the readings, we have the homily, we have the opportunity even to socialize before Mass, after Mass, to be there as community. All of that stuff is vital, to offer up our prayers, to pray for the needs of the church there together as a community. There are so many important reasons why it's necessary for us to go to Mass. But here's another one I'll toss out, is that we often say, well, I can grow closer to God in this way or this way, I don't want to go to Mass, whatever. But the reality is even when we're doing those things, a lot of times we have a tendency not to really pray, or not to really reach out to God, and not really to listen to Him through His Word or through others. If we're alone, that makes it very difficult to do. You can't hear God through other people, or even if we take God's Word out with us, okay, and wherever we're going, or maybe staying in, it is not the same as receiving the Eucharist, Jesus Himself, body, blood, soul, and divinity, being there in the presence of our brothers and sisters, our Catholic family, fellow Christians, sharing with them in prayer, in worship, in song, all of those kinds of things. It is not, we cannot replicate this on our own elsewhere. Even if we take a Bible and we go read somewhere, it's not the same. Okay, and we should be doing those things. We should have those individual prayer moments where we're having those experiences, at home, in the hospital bed, in a tree stand, wherever we are. Okay, even on a sports field, for crying out loud. We should take God into every different part of our day. But we do this best through the prayers of the church, through the gift that Jesus Christ gave us in the Mass and the Eucharist. So here's one of the things that I think that we can do in our own spiritual life is sometimes if we're like, well, I'm not really getting much out of Mass, okay, is to challenge ourselves a little bit more. And sometimes we only get out of things what we put into them. So we can ask ourselves, well, how well am I preparing for this sacrifice of the Mass? In advance, have I read the readings? Have I read commentaries on the readings that we're going to hear at Mass today? So that the readings aren't just dead, that they actually come alive, that I've researched them, I've learned about these readings, and I know what's going on. I know the context of the readings. This was a pivotal experience for me in college. As a freshman, I started going to a Bible study in which we met with the priest. I think it was on Tuesday or Wednesday night, and we read the readings for the upcoming Sunday, which was awesome because the priest would explain to us, well, here's what the context, here's what's going on, here's what's happening in the readings, and it brought it to life for us, and we'd have discussion about it, and we'd talk about how it applied to us as college students, and it was great, and I didn't even realize this until a few weeks into it, that the priest started, in his homily, he would use some of the things that we were talking about in his homily that connected way better with the young people who were attending church. I mean, this was a win-win for everybody. The benefit to the priest is he was sharing with us, he was opening the Word for us, he was sharing the gospel, he was sharing the readings with us, and the deeper exegesis of what the readings are all about, what they mean, all of that kind of stuff. And that was helping us understand them, and it was making Mass more fruitful for us. But we were giving him fruitful material to use in his homilies and to be able to relate to young people, because we were talking in the Bible study about what impact this has on our life, what this means, how this ties into events that are going on, current events, all that kind of stuff. And then he could use that material in his homilies and be a much better homilist and incorporate that material and be relevant to the young people on campus. So it was so fruitful across the board. But one of the big things I took away from that was when I prepare for Mass, when even just going 10 minutes early and taking the time to pray and to offer that experience up to God and say, God, I'm here and I'm really going to be present, and to listen to the readings, to sing with all my heart back to you, Lord, to make an offering of myself, my joys and my sufferings, give all that back to you, and to receive you in the Blessed Sacrament so that I can go at the end of Mass, go and take you into the world, your truth and your love, and let it change my my life. Because if it's not changing my life, I'm doing something wrong. Because God's giving me his entire self in the Eucharist, in the Word, in the gathering of the people, in the priest, the minister, standing in persona Christi, in the person of Jesus Christ. Like, if I'm not being changed by this experience, then I'm doing something wrong. So that's something that I challenge myself with, I challenge all of us with as Catholics, is if I don't feel like I'm getting much out of Mass, let me open my eyes and see the Eucharist, the Word, the community, all of this stuff, and how it's all coming together, and the purpose of this in helping me grow as a child of God and gathering together as a family of Jesus Christ. If you'd like more Passionately Catholic content, be sure to subscribe. A special thank you goes out to our patrons who make all that we do at Passionately Catholic possible. I wish you God's abundant blessings and peace, and I look forward to being in touch very soon.